All right, everybody. Before we dive into today's episode, we're brought to you by a few fantastic brands that sponsor this show. The first one is Routine. Now, this one has been a sponsor for a long time. If you haven't tried it yet, I don't know what you're doing because I've been talking about them for years. But ultimately, what was Routine designed to do? Well, when we sleep, we lose between a pound and a half of water, mostly just from sweating, something I learned when I first met these guys. Each packet of Routine comes with half an organic lemon, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, Himalayan sea salt, all 6 essential electrolytes, and no sugar. I always like to say it's really just 3 ingredients. It's lemons, it's apple cider vinegar, it's Himalayan sea salt. I dump that into a glass of water first thing in the morning, rehydrate myself. The days I have it versus the days I don't, phenomenal on the days I do. I genuinely, it's one of those products where you feel it immediately. You know when you don't have it. Trusted ingredients, made convenient. These guys, they're the bomb. I love working with them. I've loved supporting them over the years. Give them a shot if you haven't already. Go to yourroutine.com. You can use code ShaneWhite30 at checkout for 30% off your first order. They're also available on Amazon. You can go there, get on subscription. That's what I would do. Get a 30-pack, throw it on subscribe and save, get it once a month. If you like to have more than one a day, or if you share it with folks in your house, you're probably going to need it more than once a month, or get 2 bags a month. Both of those are great options. You can save up to 15% every month on Amazon with Subscribe and Save. All right. Our next guest, holy cow, they have been a guest, but our next sponsor is NeuroRoast. Today's episode is brought to you by NeuroRoast, a company that's dedicated to helping you optimize your brain function and overall well-being. NeuroRoast's flagship product is their premium mushroom coffee, which is made with an organic single origin coffee and their signature blend of 5 different functional mushrooms: cordyceps, lion's mane, reishi, turkey tail, and chaga. Mushroom coffee is a new and exciting way to supercharge your day. Unlike regular coffee, which can cause jitters and crashes, mushroom coffee provides a more balanced and sustained energy boost, allowing you to stay focused and productive throughout the day. And with NeuroRoast ground and instant coffee options, you can enjoy the benefits of mushroom coffee wherever and whenever you need it. And here's some great news for my listeners today. NeuroRoast is offering an exclusive discount code just for you. You can use code ShaneWhite, that's just Shane White, during checkout at neuroroast.com to get 30% off your order of NeuroRoast mushroom coffee. Whether you choose the ground or instant option, that's just Shane White for 30% off your purchase at neuroroast.com. And all right, we actually have a new sponsor on the show. Couldn't be more excited. Love these guys. They are also out of Chicago. I have worked with them, supported them, actually invested in them. So if you can't tell, I love these guys. You do now. It's called Haywell. And for any of you who know me, you know I'm into energy drinks. I'm into caffeine, sometimes to my detriment. And Haywell has honestly been a great alternative, not just caffeine or caffeinated product, but it's been a product that I'm able to use at nighttime too, because they have a calming line as well. But really, Haywell, I'll read this to you guys. Modern life can be hard, but your wellness shouldn't have to be. Being well doesn't mean being perfect. Getting fit doesn't mean you have to fit into a mold. We need a reminder that little more joyful steps can add up to something truly meaningful. We can do hard things, but that doesn't mean we always need to be so hardcore. Wellness is meant to be enjoyed, not endured. They created Haywell to be a simple invitation to a new movement for modern wellness where all are welcome, where small steps can add up to something big, where you get more high fives and less side eyes, where you have more fun and less frustration, where flavor and function are equally famous. Wellness doesn't come in a can, but we can help. They have created a line of low-calorie, functional beverages that taste delicious and help you be a little more well in every mood and moment. They're equally proud of creating a more welcoming, realistic, and joyful flavor of wellness culture where more people feel seen, supported, and inspired to embrace a wellness journey that truly feels better for you from the beginning. Haywell is here for you from rise and shine to relax and unwind. Ashley and Britt, like I said, the co-founders of Haywell, I've worked with them for a while now, and they're just unbelievable people. If you guys want to try their products, go to the link in the bio. As I'm recording this, I don't have a discount code, but I'm sure we can get one for you guys. So take a look at the link in the bio. You can go to haywell.com. You can also go to Amazon. They're on Amazon, and it's a great place to get it. They're also available in Target. You can find them in Foxtrot. You can find them in a lot of different places now. They're doing a great job of getting distribution. But I would say the 2 easiest places, livinghaywell.com. If you just Google Haywell, you'll find that pretty quickly. And then also Amazon. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Here's today's show. All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Shane White Show. I'm pumped today to have Sam Moore from Hazlo on the podcast. Sam, how are you, my friend? How are you?
I'm good. Actually, the name's pronounced Oslo, so we can just
Oslo. I can just redo that. Oslo.
I need to preemptively say that.
I should have asked you. That's my bad. And usually I butcher the name more so than the brand.
Sam Moore's the easy one.
Oslo.
Yeah, so I put it on the can, but it's like the A and the H is
okay.
Flipped.
Yeah.
So it's a Spanish word. That's a story that we could go into. But
yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, give everyone that's listening a little background into you and how you started the brand.
Yeah. So I am a fellow Chicagoan, like our boy Shane here. And I grew up in the Midwest, went to U of I, started working professionally in Chicago. And with all of that, alcohol was a very present thing in my life in every stage of that. So I still remember working in consulting at EY. I'm 23 years old, and for the first time in my life, I just was in a terrible place, physically, mentally, kind of in every element of life. And that kind of like started the process of realizing that alcohol was probably more of a negative in my life than a positive, even though it was such a feature of all of the great experiences I was having in college with friends at weddings and whatnot. But it took a while for me to really kind of like believe that, and having recurring issues that happened, later on in my career when I was living in San Francisco, working in the software space, and that's really where I kind of was like, I'm in an incredible place, surrounded by amazing people. I work for a great company. I really believe in what we're doing and what's happening. And I still am just I don't feel good when I wake up. I'm not excited about anything I'm doing. And I'm pretty sure this has to do with the 5 to 6 nights a week that I'm having to indulge in alcohol, whether it's work happy hours, going out to dinners with entertaining clients, or just even on the weekends with my friends. And so that kind of like led me to decide to move away from San Francisco, go back to Chicago, kind of like reroute for a bit, and ultimately commit to creating what ended up being Hazlo.
Very cool, man. It's weird. I don't know if it's quietly just, I say quietly, but I feel like it's happened really quick. I kind of went through a similar thing, and mine was a little different. Mine was like not necessarily like clients and work related. It was more of my son was born. And I had this weird thing that happened the day he was born, where I vividly remember like a couple weeks before he was born, when your wife's pregnant, it's like the running joke that like you have a DD for 9 months, right? And so I remember having that where you maybe I went to like dinner and had a couple cocktails and she could drive us home, to then all of a sudden my son's born and realizing like, shit, like if something happens to him and I couldn't get him into safety because I was drunk, like I don't know, I'd never like forgive myself is basically what the ramification of that thought process was. And like ever since then, I just slowly but surely started drinking less and less and less. And so it's been cool to see brands like yours pop up, because I think it's solving something that's quietly changing in culture, honestly, more so than anything else. Like I think people are realizing what you realized, and it's happening at scale. And I'm sure you see that.
Totally. And I mean, it helps that my friends, anytime they see an article, they're sending it to me and kind of like validating that less and less people are drinking, or more people, I should say, are kind of going through an awakening like you and I did. And, I said the story really quick. It was a very tight, like I had this moment and then things changed. But with anything, it's been very gradual. And similarly, it was just like I did a month without drinking, and then I was like, okay, that was cool. And then 3 months later, I was just back in the same pattern. It's like, okay, let me try 3 months without drinking. And then that was, kind of, I did the typical entrepreneur thing where you do 75 hard, right? So I did 75 hard.
Oh yeah, you have to, of course.
Exactly, it's part of the prerequisite. But I remember just, I get to the end of 75 hard, and I'm like, God, I feel so good right now. Like it's just, the first time in my adult life, I'm sleeping 7 hours uninterrupted. I'm, waking up in my body, like all of the, I had chronic like lower back pain for years, like most of my post-college, like 20 to 27. And all of a sudden I'm working out way more than I ever had at any other point. And I'm feeling the least amount of pain I have at any other point.
Yeah.
It's just like
look at that.
The inflammation is just out of my body. So it was after that, like, I just was like, okay, I want to be able to tap into feeling that good as much as possible. And, I'll come out and say I'm not like 100% sober. My brother got married back in June. Like I had some cocktails at the wedding. Like I still at times indulge in opportunities where I think it's going to like enhance the experience. But
Sure,
the
of course.
default answer is no. And I would say it's no 99% of the time, right? I was at a wedding this past weekend, and it's like, hey, I'm just going to be hanging out and drinking my whatever non-alcoholic option they have at those bars. But it's been cool to kind of, like I said, be able to tap into feeling the best I've felt in memory,
It's wild. Well, it's weird too, because I believe we're like the exact same age. Look like we were in school at the same time. So I feel like when I'm sure you felt the same way. Like when we were in college, like I'm about to turn 34, and I'm like, a 34-year-old I always thought was like, ancient. I don't know, kind of ancient. I don't know, like out of shape,
over the hill,
maybe a little over. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. And I think I've started to realize it's pretty obvious that even like relatives that, maybe didn't even make it very long in life. The one consistent thing has always been, at least in my family, I can see on both sides, like there definitely was drinking involved, like a lot of drinking, like the occasional like couple cocktails almost every night type of thing. And you're like, damn, you do that over 75 years or 70 years. Like, that adds up. I mean,
I don't want to jump into too much of the science stuff too, but it's like, just even purely on, like that's 200 to 500 additional calories daily, just kind of for whatever reason. And then, your body is just having to, instead of having like the rejuvenating sleep that typically happens, your liver is having to work to process out alcohol while you're sleeping. So you just, instead of resting and recovering, you're having to expend more. So that's why you continually wake up more and more tired and exhausted as time goes on. And those compounding effects, both from like eating more calories or consuming more calories and never allowing your body to kind of like actually get restful sleep, yields, when you're 34 to 50 to 70, whatever it ends up being, like the compounding negative impacts of it.
100%. Yeah, and it makes sense. I feel like I keep saying our generation is going to be the most self-aware generation that's ever been, I think, because we got all the devices, all this information that we can all use. So let's back up. So we obviously you go through this experience. Give us the like day one, because obviously, I mean, how many people have an idea, and that idea maybe even gets written up somewhere, but there's never a actual product or service created from that. You have a full-blown brand with product, and it's a real thing. Let's back up to the beginning. Like you come back to Chicago. Did the idea come up when you were back in Chicago and you were kind of resetting?
So it started. The idea happening is what prompted the move back to Chicago. So I was living in San Francisco at the time, but was visiting a friend in New York. And this is like 2018. So the like White Claw summer was in full effect, right? And I remember
that.
Seeing people like I was partaking too, but like everyone's drinking White Claws. And I had this kind of like moment of clarity where I'm like, this is the exact same thing as like a Colt 45 malt liquor drink. But somehow this brand has made everyone think that this is like a healthy thing for them to do. And I just was so
funny.
I've
never heard someone say that. It's so true.
Yeah. It was one of those things where I saw it, and after I saw it, I can't unsee it. Right. So I'm around all these people, I'm seeing it. And I kind of like had this epiphany where I'm like, eventually the world is going to realize that this is just horrible for them. And at the very least, they're going to start going towards like using actual vodka or actual tequila or, all these different things that eventually brands like High Noon ended up doing. But at this time it was kind of, White Claw and Truly were really the only RTDs on the market. And so I had this like moment in New York where I had this thought. And to your point, I've had thoughts and ideas and, things that I wanted to create countless times in my past and done nothing with it. But for some reason, I woke up the next day and I was still thinking about it. And then I flew back to San Francisco and I had a conversation with like a buddy of mine from high school being like, hey, I kind of like picked up on this vibe of what's happening in the drinking world. Is this something you're seeing? It's like, no, but that makes so much sense. And like, it was a lot of every time I tried to test this idea and honestly just make it so that it was something that everyone else already knew about. So it wasn't worth pursuing. Mm-hmm. But every time I would have the conversation, it would further kind of probe thoughts and questions and stuff that I wanted to go find out. So I spent about 8 months, we'll say, living back in San Francisco and every single day becoming more and more kind of consumed by it. And we kind of talked, before we hopped on and recorded about the name of the brand, but I had this like great job in software, and I mentioned I was, not super fulfilled, but it was something where, golden handcuffs, right? Like I was getting paid super well. I was working for a company that was doing really well. I worked under a CEO who was like, my inspiration to become an entrepreneur, basically. And I kind of was like, man, this is like a really good situation, but I'm also like, if I'm not thrilled to be doing this in this situation, like I think this is not the situation I'm in. And I was going back and forth on if I should go explore this drink idea. And I eventually just was like, okay, if I can come up with a name for it, then I'll like at least explore it. Like that'll be the first kind of goalpost that I'll set to go down this path. And I would randomly, when I was like working out in the gym or whatever, I would just go onto like random word lists and try to like see if anything jumped out at me. And I've wound up on this list of Spanish words one day because part of the hypothesis I had was people moving away from malt liquor and potentially going to tequila, right? Like tequila being this like better for you. So I was like, maybe this is where some inspiration will come. But I was scrolling through and I come across this word and it says Hazlo. And I, am not fluent in Spanish, but took it for many years and very conversational. It was a word that I'd never seen before. And right underneath it says, do it. And I remember just getting full body chills.
Whoa,
just
cool.
like being like, that's the name. And that being the catalyst to like, okay, I need to move back to Chicago or it wasn't like move back to Chicago, but I need to get out of this day-to-day San Francisco software world and into a space where I can kind of like pour more energy, time, and attention into figuring out what this is going to be.
Wow. That's such a cool story. I don't know if I've actually heard, I've had a lot of people on here. I don't know if I've ever heard of a name of a brand come with that sort of like power behind it. What a cool thing, Sam. That's awesome.
I'm getting chills again talking about it. Like it was,
I bet.
It was one of those things where, I ran home and I'm like, this has to exist. Like the name Hazlo and meaning do it, like someone has to have already kind of like captured this. Because it feels
I was going to say that, yeah.
It feels like the most baseline, like entrepreneurial thing, like do it. Yeah, but there was one like tequila brand that had it, that their trademark was expiring in 3 months. And I was like, all right, if this expires, then all of a sudden I can own the trademark. This is our thing. Let's go.
Is that what you did? You waited till the 3 month mark and you like filed for it?
Filed for it. And I had already like, I bought the domain of like drinkoslo.com. I started doing some of the stuff in the background. That was very, minimal cash investment, but just to ensure that like when the trademark became available, I had some of the other stuff in place to act on it.
So this is wild. So you, at this point, you have an idea, but you don't have a product, right? You didn't have a product
Nothing.
when you did all this? This is just the name. Yeah. So
Literally the name.
So did you move back before the trademark? And pick up where you were and quit your job?
No, I that happened. So I came up with the idea in May 2018. The name came like in June. So it was like very short from coming up with the idea.
Oh, that's great timing too.
Yeah. And so like the name comes
that also
in
had to be validation for you. You're like, what's 100%. The chance that this trademark's up in a month? Like, that's insane.
Yeah. So the name comes in June, the trademark's expiring in September. So I end up like incorporating September 18th I'm saying it it's September 18th, 2018 is when we incorporated the business with the trademark. And then it was February 2019 that I moved back to Chicago. So it was kind of, I had such overwhelming evidence, and going back to what I mentioned earlier, I was constantly trying to find a reason to not do this. Like it was very much, I was excited about it. It seemed like a great idea, but I'm like, it'd be so much easier to just not, to not have to go down this path. But every single thing that I was encountering, and, I'll get there's more of that later on in the story too, but everything that was happening was just like more validation of like, you need to go focus on this. This is something you need to be paying attention to. And, it also helped that I'd already been in San Francisco for like 5 years, was kind of ready to end that chapter of my life. And my first niece was born and she was in Chicago at the time. So I'm like, okay, be close to family. There's a lot of, occurring evidence to make that move and start to invest more energy into it.
Got it. Yeah. And so this is wild. So you get the name, For everyone listening, I mean, one thing we haven't talked about is like what is in the product.
Yeah.
I think it's a big one. So like you have this idea, you see where this is going with non-alcoholic drinks and just people drinking less. Let's hear more about like how you actually came up with the product, what was going into the product, how'd you come up with that, how'd you even start that process?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my background, I studied finance in college. I did consulting and software sales. So like nothing that had anything to do with creating a physical product, let alone, formulating beverages. So part of that initial thing was like, how do you make a drink? Like I just had no conception of how this process worked. And so, I learned that there's this entire industry called formulators who all they do all day is talk to people with an idea, and they have a lab, and they their food science background, chemistry background, cook something up, send it to you, test and iterate. And so on that last like 4 months that I was living in San Francisco, I had found a partner in California to kind of like help me, formulate it. And it was a small shop, so I was like connecting with a guy on entrepreneurial kind of, he really understood my idea. And anyone that's going through this process, you're going to talk to people that are wanting you to pay them like $25,000 just to like get a formula. And, a lot of it has to do with, they're called like flavor houses. So they'll develop your specific flavor, and they own the flavor, and you get to license it. And so you are now contractually obligated to purchase stuff from them forever, right? Like you are only able to get that specific thing. So I was talking to those people like, okay, I think it's a good idea, but I'm not going to just throw 25 to 50, whatever, how many thousands of dollars at this. Seems like incredibly irresponsible. So this guy was like significantly less expensive, seemed to really understand what I was doing. So we start kind of going through the process. And to mention kind of the trends that I was seeing, right? So it was this idea of like drinking is going to be healthier. I personally was not in this I'm going to stop drinking mindset. Like that was not where it got to. But it was like I want to have, if I'm drinking these things, instead of it being malt liquor and artificial flavors or whatever it is, stuff that is going to be like exponentially worse for me, what if it was like high quality spirits and really good ingredients that like helped my body recover better? That was the core thesis of it. And I quickly realized that doing anything with alcohol, crazy expensive, a lot of red tape, just stuff that I didn't want to think about. So I was like, okay, let's just focus on what is this drink that I would have with alcohol or any other time. And so there's a lot of different ingredients. At the time there was a brand called Morning Recovery, which I think is still around. But they they made this ingredient called DHM, which is like a prickly pear tree extract, which is supposed to help your liver metabolize alcohol better. But this whole like functional ingredient movement was happening. Like, okay, I want this to be a very functional, very better for you product. And so that was kind of the foundation laid. I signed the contract with the guy, pretty immediately realized that this is not at all the dynamic that I thought it was going to be. And he was very much a hustler, very sales focused and oriented. And as soon as he closed the deal with me, he was off to close the next deal and did not spend a lot of time focusing on us. So it would be like a month that I would go without hearing from him. The samples that he would send would be like so chemically and just like disgusting. And I remember giving them to my friends, and they would take a sip, just look at me and like, how honest do you want me to be? I was like, really honest. Like, it's terrible. I would never consume this. I'm like, all right, back to the drawing board. So I end up being back in Chicago, like working with the guy and realizing I need to like, terminate this agreement. But that was a very challenging thing to do because I'd moved to Chicago. Like, I've got this partnership. I'm going to be back here, in 6 months, I'm going to have this in the market. 18 months, I'm going to be super rich, and we're going to be taking over the world. Like I'd already counted all this stuff and get to that point wherever I thought I was going to be launching a business and being just completely back at square one with nothing. So it's a very challenging process, and I know that was a longest story. So before I jump into the actual person that made
fantastic.
Yeah, so then it was like a 3-month lull period where I started talking to more and more of these formulators. We get to the point of like committing to a contract, and every single time I was like, this feels the exact same. Like there's nothing about this partnership or person that feels different than the first one. And I'm pretty sure I'm either going to end up with a product I don't enjoy or care about, or they're going to take my money and do nothing with it again. So
Sure.
I ended up shutting up shop a little bit. Like I said, I was constantly looking for a reason to maybe not do this, and committed to, I got to the end of 2019 at October 2019. Nothing had happened. I'm like, okay, well, I think this is a sign. I know I'm not supposed to be in software, probably not supposed to do this. So I got to go figure out what the next move is going to be. And the one decision I made when I came back to Chicago was I was willing to talk to literally anyone and everyone that would be open to speaking to me, bonus points if they were relevant. And one of the people I got introduced to during that time she was the head of the mixology department for the Violet Hour. I don't know if you've been to the Violet Hour in Chicago.
Oh, no.
In Wicker
No, I
Park.
haven't.
So it actually very recent, like in June, closed down. It was very unfortunate, but it was at the time one of the top cocktail bars in the country. Had just won a James Beard Award for their mixology and kind of just being like at the forefront of this thing. And this woman, Eden, was part owner. And so I got on a phone call with her. It was super short. Just I could tell she was distracted. And for some reason, I'm like, I need to meet her. Like, I just need to meet her in person. I'm pretty sure. And from that phone call until October, all of this stuff with the other formulator happened. So like I talked to her on the phone as this like beverage entrepreneur, I'm about to be launching this thing, And then 4 months later, she finally emails me being like, I got time for coffee on Thursday. Like, does 10 a.m. work? And I remember seeing that email 2 days prior, like it was literally 2 days before I'd made the decision to shut it down and not even sign a contract with a new formulator. Get to coffee with her, and I decided to go. Like, I almost didn't show up, but I decided to go because I'm like, I think she's going to be at least a good person to know in the world. And sit down. She asked me how things are going. I tell her how things are awful and how I'm like, basically like the most discouraged I've ever been at any point in my life. And I can't fathom continuing to sell software. I can't seem to make this drink happen. Like, I don't know what to do. And I get to the end of that. She just looks at me and she's like, Sam, number one, as an entrepreneur, like totally hear you and empathize with you. Like, everybody I know that's created anything has been exactly where you are. And number two, I don't know if you know this, but I also formulate beverages on the side, and I love your idea. Can I make it for you? And I remember just being like,
oh, whoa.
Are you kidding me right now? So she ended up being the person that I partnered with to create what is now Hazlo and the stuff that we have in the cans. So we started this.
No way. So a
process.
coffee you basically almost skipped, and you're like, fuck this, I'm over it all.
Yeah.
Turned out to be the most important coffee you've probably ever gotten.
And it's how I keep happening, man. It's how I convince myself that I'm supposed to continue doing this. But yeah, I remember like walking out of the, it was the La Colombe right next to the Violet Hour in Wicker Park, and just like looking around.
Okay.
What is happening right now? This is crazy. Like the leaves were like the most visible and vibrant they've ever been. And I just was like, okay, I'm pretty sure my life just changed, but I don't know how, but I think that was a really important thing that just happened.
What a wild story, man. I mean, it's a good life lesson as well, because I think there's too many people out there, and maybe this is the like post-COVID world that we live in now, where things are so readily available, and like you just, we're on a Riverside call right now. It's like you and I are in two different places, but we can talk so quickly. I think sometimes people only want to take calls or meetings if they think it's going to be beneficial for themselves. And I've been such a big fan of like, no, man, you want to talk to all kinds of people all the time, because it's just not even like it could turn into something beneficial for you, but just like it's good to know people in the world. And now we're like so connected, but so disconnected at the exact same time. I feel every day like I work behind the screen so much that I podcast is behind the screen, and I take advantage of meeting everyone I can. I'm with you, man. What a cool story. That is wild. So you have this amazing coffee. How long from that point to having the canned beverage you just flashed up? Like, how long did it take to go from that to that?
So, and not to continue to talk about this, like so we met October 2019, and it was January 2020 when I finally had like the first formula. And so we had this we have 3 flavors now. The lime and mint was the one that we initially did. And, we ended up, I tried to launch it in 2020. We all know how that year went. So that was good timing. Good timing. Yet another crushing blow to my aspirations to be retired on a beach in 18 months. Yeah, so I ended up like spending 2020 again. I had this product. The world shut down, so it was like you can't launch a product in the middle of the COVID pandemics. I spent the year continuing to not enjoy software, officially quitting though. I was like, got to the point where like, I can't, if I'm constantly thinking about doing anything but this, I should probably do anything but this. But I made sure that
were you still technically working at the other for that
the whole
company,
time.
but just remotely in Chicago? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, smart. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's something
So-
I like to hit on in here because I think some people think you're able to just jump and live off of nothing. And I think it's an important thing that most people do that.
It is. It was incredible, and that's going back to what kept me there for so long. Is my CEO Mahesh was just incredible, and not only was he kind of like my inspiration as an entrepreneur, but I remember it was towards the end of 2018, I was consumed with this idea. I asked him to get dinner. We get dinner, and I'm like, "Hey, man, this is gonna sound crazy, but I had this drink idea that I can't stop thinking about, and I'm pretty sure I need to go do this." And he was like, "Cool. What needs to happen?" And I'm like, "I think I need to move to Chicago." It's like, "Done. What else?" And just kind of like was a yes-anding me the whole way. And it helped that I had a great relationship with him, and helped that I was one of the top producers at the company.
Sure.
But
Yeah, of
but
course.
to have someone who, my pursuit of this was going to, not massively negatively impact them, but in some way was going to mean I was going to be giving less energy to this company, but to still kind of help me, get to the point of going through it. But yeah, so I worked remotely for all of 2019 and then most of 2020. But then it was like I was living in Chicago again. My lease ended, so I decided to move back with my folks for a little bit. And I remember that I had this like thing in my mind where like I can't quit my job when I have to pay rent. Like it doesn't. Why would I willingly remove my income source when I'm paying rent? It doesn't make sense.
Sure.
And I got on a call with a buddy of mine who was like, "Hey, literally jumped right in. He's like, I'm quitting my job tomorrow." And I remember being like, why am I not quitting my job tomorrow? It's like, oh yeah, I gotta pay rent. And then I realized the next day was when my last rent payment was happening for this apartment. I'm like, okay, cool. Gotta quit my job. So I set a meeting like a week later with my CEO. We get on, and instantly he's like, I know what this is about. And it was just like a good kind of like, communal, like he was super excited for me, bummed that I was leaving, but we parted on really good terms. And that's end of 2020 was when that happened. And I'm like, all right, got to go make this happen. And I decided that I was going to do it in Colorado as opposed to Chicago to get started. So that's how we wind up me sitting in Denver, Colorado today talking.
Yeah, let's spin to that. Like, so why Denver?
It was a number of different reasons. So when I was thinking about launching the business, there's a few things that I was trying to take into account, but the mostly was just me. And unfortunately, so I've lived in Chicago several different chapters of my life. Every time I live in Chicago, I wind up being the worst version of myself. And I know that is just my fault. It's entirely my fault and my doing. But something about being really close to my family or with all of my friends from childhood and college and, my early parts of my career, it was so easy for me to fall back into the pattern of going out to happy hour and boozing with people all the time. And just kind of, I could go to the gym or I could just like go hit up, I ended up having all of these reasons to not live the way I wanted to live. And so I kind of was a binary decision of I shouldn't, if I'm going to be the person that creates something really cool, I don't think I can be that person here. That was kind of the thought process behind leaving Chicago. And then for Denver, it was more like, okay, where could this work? And I had almost moved to Denver a couple times in my adult life. And I was like, okay, what about Denver? And I scheduled a trip and just like went to go visit some buddies out here for a week. And it was both like, two things really happened. So the first one was I just went and talked to as many restaurant owners, liquor store owners, grocery store owners, just was like, hey, I have this idea for this drink. I'm creating it. It's going to have these things in it. What do you think? And they're like, that's exactly what people are looking for here. I'm like, okay, that's good.
Oh,
validation
wow,
number
okay.
one. And it was, it wasn't always that like emphatic, but it was a 100% approval rating of them being like, when you have it, come back. I would love to try it. Like you're hitting on so many things that we're seeing our customers talk about. You should do this, number one, and please bring it here when you have some samples. The other thing, and this is much more anecdotal, but the week that I came out, one of my friends that I was staying with, they did a like surprise wedding for us and all their friends. Like they just like got married out of nowhere.
Oh, wow.
that week when I was staying with him, like day 2. And I'm like, there's too many things happening that are just really positively pushing me in this direction. And you could probably pick up on as I'm talking, like I'm very tuned into what are the, I'm not very like
signs,
I'm not like reading zodiac signs or my aura every single day. But if I go to a thing or I take a step in a direction and positive stuff around me starts happening, I try to listen to that and let that kind of guide me in the direction.
I think it's cool. Yeah, it's like you're leaning into that. Very cool. Okay, so Denver's the spot. When did you officially, when is it officially launched? When is it available to purchase? What's that date?
Yeah, the first time I sold anything was May 19th, 2021. So it was like, and beginning of 21 is when I ended up officially moving to Colorado. Spent a couple months getting settled. I ended up finding a farmer's market that was local, that was getting restarted, and they gave me a booth, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I just showed up to these farmers markets with my elixirs and whatnot, and just started selling it to the residents of Denver, Colorado, and it was really cool. It was, I think this is going to, advice for if you have a food or beverage product that you're trying to launch, get into a farmer's market, just because it is the most incredible way to get immediate customer feedback. And I think the thing that the mistake I see a lot of food and beverage entrepreneurs making is they get samples, they have all their friends try it, which I did too, but like they have all their friends try it and they all tell them it's incredible, right? Because these people are like, they love you and they want you to be successful. And they have such a bias towards making you feel good that they're going to tell you what you want to hear. Some stranger walking through a farmer's market trying your stuff for the first time either pays you money for it or they keep walking. And so you get this immediate customer feedback where it's, it can be very abrasive. Some people are not too shy to tell you their unfiltered thoughts on how much your stuff is terrible. But then hopefully enough people like it and people want to support it. So that was that first summer, we got some like incredibly very enthusiastic customers that would come back every single week. Multiple of them, who'd show up right when it opened and be like, Sam, I came here just to buy your stuff, and like grab it and literally leave the farmer's market. So I'm like, okay, this is really good validation that at least my stuff doesn't suck. Now, can I figure out mass distribution and everything else? This is the later parts of the story, but at least it's good. It tastes good, and I can make it in a consistent way. So the farmer's market happens, and then what I was initially selling this like concentrated herbal tea almost, and it was something that you could mix with alcohol, drink without alcohol, and after like a year of that was when I started really experimenting with not drinking at all myself, just because now I'm on my own. Like I can't. You had your son. I had this baby of mine where it's like I have to wake up every day, and if I'm not moving things forward, nothing happens. And I've bet my entire life on this moving forward, so I better take this seriously. And so I started just really being like, okay, I am drinking as little as possible, as frequently as possible. And I kind of got to the point where I'm like, this story I'm telling of, healthier alcohol or mixing it with tequila is just so inauthentic to who I am. Like I feel like an imposter, not because this product or anything, but because who I'm presenting as is not aligned with this. And that was ultimately what got me to go into this like true do 75 hard, go like purely into the non-alcoholic space, and where the most, it coincided with the most immediate uptick in sales, revenue, success as a business. But that was after doing a lot of just in-person farmers markets, trying and failing to sell stuff to liquor stores, to grocery stores. But ultimately being like, okay, who am I? What do I want to represent? What is the product that the best version of the most aspirational version of myself would be looking for? And that's how we got to this, the non-alcoholic seltzer that we have now.
Love it, man. And you fast forward now. Now you've been going at it for a little bit. Where are you guys widely available now?
We are. So in Chicago, where you are, we're at like all the Foxtrot locations. We are in a lot of like the northern suburbs. Bars and restaurants is primarily where we are there. We're all over Colorado. We have a small in California and Texas, but we're kind of like in 4 regions right now. So really focusing on winning in like our, Denver's a great demographic for us. Chicago is, got a lot of connections there. And then Texas and Southern California are like the two kind of like massive growing health, wellness, kind of better for you beverage product spaces. So those are where we are primarily right now. We are sold all over the country online, but focusing, on those retail markets right now.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I would tell you just anecdotally from my perspective, I've talked to too many brands now that they just sprinted way too fast into getting all the doors they possibly could, and They didn't focus on moving product off the shelf, which is arguably the most important part. So good for you guys. I mean, it's also probably allowed you guys to continue scaling with some sort of profitability in mind and able to fund the business and fuel it. I know my backstory, I don't know if you saw, but like I was at RX Bar, and one of the things I learned from those guys is like they just were so methodical about where they sold product, and when they sold product in a place, like we put all of our energy into it, and it was a patience game. And I think most people hear like the end story of it, but that there was such a domino effect of like this compounding effect over years and years and years that was quietly no one really heard about our X Bar. And then the last year of 2017, they just had a bunch of big dominoes that all fell at once. And I think that's how the best brands do it. They're very, very patient, and then eventually it just starts coming in like wildfire. So good for you, man. That's amazing.
I'm trying to mirror that as best I can. I think another thing, coming in with very little CPG experience, you kind of are like, okay, I'll get into every grocery store. We'll just do it that way. And then you realize to get into regionally, the 19 Sprouts in the Denver metro area, you got to pay like at least $10,000 to maybe $25,000 in slotting fees. It's just like pure outflow of money. Not to mention the free product you have to give to all their stores, and then you have to pay money to either put it on promo or have people go in there and like doing demos. I'm like, okay, this is a $75,000 investment to like hopefully have stuff move off the shelves. And I think that's what I know of the RX Bar story, being incredibly diligent about, we are going to be the bar that's in every single CrossFit gym in Chicago, and making all of those people, that is like that's what they're having every single time. Real quick, well, I'll make note of this. It's saying my internet sucks. Can you hear me still?
Okay. Yeah, I can. I can hear you still. It's saying reconnecting, but I can hear you still, which is weird. I've never seen this happen before. Keep going. We can fix that.
Okay, cool. Minute 39, and we're back. But yeah, so the RX Bar.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, the clap. And we're back.
is exactly what I'm trying to model after as much as I can.
I love that, man. It's exciting to hear that, because I think I've heard the other side of the coin just so many times that it's good to hear someone who's being slow and diligent. I mean, it's how the best brands I wouldn't say all have been built, but I would say the best of the best, in my opinion, have been built that way. Sam, I don't want to speed towards the end, but I know we're getting to the top of the hour, so I want to be cognizant of time too. One of the questions I want to ask is, honestly, I've loved your story, and you have so many cool aspects of like signs and things that happen to you as you've gone along, and a lot of potential off-ramps you could have taken. What has been the biggest surprise, whether that's good, bad, or just the first thing that popped in your head? Like, what's been the biggest surprise since starting a beverage company that you could have never in a million years expected to have happen? It's been like a learning lesson for you as an entrepreneur. I think that'd be cool for the audience, because you've already in your story, and obviously you're early in the story of this brand. You've just had a lot of adversity, and it's been cool to hear like how you've thought through it. So I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think the surprises. I mean, everything's been a surprise, if I'm being honest. But I think the area that comes to my mind in terms of not just on the product development side, because that's just a black box that everyone's going to be running into challenges, and whether it's production, distribution, everything like that. Not to be more like philosophical, but the best outcomes for the business have all come from like what is going to put me into the best position to be the best version of myself. And that being as easy or simple as like moving away from Chicago, being as simple as choosing to not drink alcohol, or things like that. But this constant kind of conversation I have with myself. I'm big into journaling. So I have a lot of, internal self-dialogue on a daily basis where I talk through what's going on with me, but asking myself the question of like, what's the thing that's going to put me in the best position to be the best version of myself. And whenever I match what I'm doing for the business with that, the best outcomes have come. So it's been very, very surprising, but very cool to kind of see that kind of self-fulfilling, pointing myself in the right direction through just trying to become the best version of myself.
I love that. I actually saw you. I think you had an Instagram post. I was looking some stuff up, and I saw you post something about journaling. I'm a big fan of that in the morning too. I feel like we could have a lot to share off the air.
Yeah.
It's really cool that you're into that. I don't think enough people are doing that, especially in entrepreneurship. I think it's wild. I use this thing called a full focus planner, and over my shoulder, I started doing this quarterly planner the quarter before I started my business, and so it's also so cool as an entrepreneur to have. You just have all this documentation of things you were working on, thoughts, problems, challenges. Like you can't remember it all. So it's cool to be able to just like pop open a quarter and see like what the big thing was that you were so stressed about or worried about. I think it's good to have the reality of like where you are in the moment too.
Absolutely.
The next question I love to ask Sam here as we kind of wind down is all around how you as an entrepreneur like, get shit done. And so in simplest form, what tools do you put around yourself to have, bigger macro goals, whether that's for the next few years or annual goals for this year, all the way down to what's Sam getting done today? You obviously journal, so I don't know if you do that with tasks. What do you are you a pen and paper guy? Are you a planner guy with tasks? Are you, an apps guy because you've been in software? Like, what's kind of the tool chest that Sam puts around him to be efficient?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone kind of has they build their own your toolkit that you're working with. I'm a big pen and paper journaler, just in the morning, just because I think I do it more. It is more my let's get rid of all of the anxiety and fear and just whatever's going on in your brain that's going to prevent you from doing what you need to do, get that all out in the open, talk yourself through it, and then move past it. So I'm a big, first thing in the morning, I journal and just, it's very stream of consciousness, whatever I need to get out of me. But I do also have a second journal where I write my to-do list and the stuff that comes to me while I'm doing my stream of consciousness, I'll write there. I am borderline psychotic about my calendar, my Google Calendar. So every Sunday I spend, 30 minutes, not anything crazy, but I will schedule my week from the moment I wake up till when I go to sleep every day for that week. And it's, my morning pages of the journaling that I do, but it's, the morning pages in the morning to travel time to the gym, to working out at the gym, blocks for focused work in the morning, calls in the afternoon, dinners that I'm going to with my fiance, whatever it ends up being. But I do that because then I know that I base it off of talking about the broader plans, and I'll talk about how I come up with those too and track those. But, do I have enough time allocated to the things that I have to do? Yes, I have all these calls. Yes, I'm pitching an investor Tuesday morning, whatever it is. But do I have the time blocked off to prepare for that pitch with the investor? Do I have the time to sit down and work on our conversion for our website because we dropped by 0.2%? But really spending a lot of time on Sundays doing that. And then the thing that's happened this year in particular is just weaponizing ChatGPT to hold me accountable to everything. So I journal pen and paper in the morning. In the afternoon or in the evening, what I do is, I'm big into the Stoics too. So put your day up for a review. So I'll type into ChatGPT, here's what I did today. And I've already kind of fed it with, here's my annual goals, my quarterly goals, and my weekly focus for the week. And I'll have ChatGPT analyze what I did that day. Here's how that work towards these goals. Here's what you're missing. Here's what you need to focus on the next day. And it really helps me kind of
smart, man.
Yeah, stay on task and just stay moving forward towards all the things that I'm working on.
That's really, really smart way to use ChatGPT. I've never heard someone use it like that. Wow. I have two questions because this is the end of the podcast, but this is so fun. This is one of my favorite topics when it comes to entrepreneurs. So when you do the weekly planning, I have a similar process. I use my planner, and it's more of I would say the process I'm going through is evaluating what happened good and bad last week, what I'm going to work pivot on this week, and then I have a weekly big three that builds into my annual goals, and it's cool. It's every week you feel the progress, steering towards your yearly goal. I am a time blocker in my Google Calendar, and I've had phases of the last few years where I'm where you are, where it's everything, and then I would love to ask the one question I've always ran into with time blocking, which is I would do the planning and then one or two dominoes falls out because I also like my agency, like I have clients, so like just things pop up and happen a lot.
Totally.
How do you handle adversity when a couple things fall out of whack? Like, are you more so planning like big windows of big things, and then you have like general blocks where you're just like hashing through tasks, or are you like every single task is like in the calendar and it's specific?
It's more the former, where it's like I over the time, and I think this is one thing too, not to take us back to when I started working remote, but that was when I moved to Chicago and I was still working in software. I knew that whenever I worked from home, I was just a complete, lazy piece of shit, basically. And I needed to like not do that when I was working remotely on a daily basis and trying to build a business and everything. So I became very diligent about looking at, okay, I'm working West Coast hours. That means I have until 10 a.m. really to like come online. So what am I going to do before then? And started really just messing around with these different things, and kind of accidentally realized that like I'm so much more tuned into what I'm doing in the morning, and I have this crazy energy crash in the afternoon, but I get energy from talking to people. So it's like, okay, if I do my really deep focused work in the morning, then I can like be locked in and channel all my energy towards that. And if I schedule my calls in the afternoon, then I'll rely upon somebody else to kind of pick me up and carry me through the end of the day. So all of that to say, in the morning, I usually try to block between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. of just like blanket focused work. So not really like really meticulously mapped out the tasks that I'm doing, but just like blocking time to like do the stuff, more so than anything.
Love that. Yeah, I think that's like the key. The key right there is like, I think where I have run into issues, I know other people that I'm close with have, is like you like put too much in the calendar specific, and then one thing takes you an hour versus 45 minutes, and the whole day's whacked out. And then so cool about ChatGPT. So ChatGPT basically knows your like annual goals and quarter, like it knows all that. And so as you load it into what you got done, it's like you're actually prompting it to like, hey, what am I missing? Like, what am I falling behind on, type of thing.
Yeah, it's been really cool, and it took like a while to kind of get it to understand, for me to really engage in it in the right way. But now it's just every time I asked ChatGPT, because I've already fed it all the stuff, to if I like have to start a new thread, I'm like, give me a comprehensive overview of me to let you know of how this is going to work. And like, it'll just spit out all this stuff on my goals, and it knows me like crazy well. It's kind of freaky at this point, honestly. But I just copy and paste it into another thing.
I know it is freaky. Yeah.
But yeah, so like at the end of the day, like today I'll talk about all these different stuff, and I'll mention, we did this interview, we talked about this stuff, and we'll map like, this is perfect for you're wanting to get more exposure, to get have your story out there, but also to like create these conversations around stuff that might lead to more investors being interested in everything like that. And so like that'll be what it tells me on like, good job on this front. But when I talk about how like I had to spend an hour figuring out what my outfit was for this wedding this weekend, it's like, that was a bad use of time, but at least you have your wedding, like it'll be that like tangible about all the things that I'm doing.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool, man. Do you have it connected to like a Google Calendar, or do you have to like, you know what I mean? Like, do you have something where it's feeding it in, or are you just manually telling it?
So I have it connected to my Google Calendar, but I usually I've enjoyed almost a therapeutic thing of, even without ChatGPT holding me accountable, of like, let me talk about what I did. And if I don't have a lot of things to say, bad. Like, we're going to definitely change that tomorrow. But yeah, so I usually kind of just do like a quick rundown.
Okay. Love it, man. So cool. All right. I know we're at time. This has been honestly, one of my favorite conversations I've had in a long time. So Sam, thank you for the time.
Of course, man.
For everyone listening, the last question, just how can people interact with you, the brand, and where can people ultimately buy the product?
Yeah. So I appreciate it. This has been great for me as well, Shane. Drinkazlo.com, and Oslo spelled Hazlo. It's like we talked about earlier, the command form of Acer. But Drink Oslo on Instagram, drinkazlo.com. Drink Oslo on TikTok, all this different stuff. And my name, Sam Moore. If you look up Oslo on LinkedIn, I think we got a couple employees, but Sam, you'll see me listed under there. You can reach out to me there, or on Instagram, sam.e.moore. And like we talked about, we ship nationwide. So whether you're in Chicago or Colorado or anywhere else, you can order it, and we'll actually, I don't know, if you want to share with your listeners, we do have like a special discount code that we can give to all the Shaun White Show listeners.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Get some money off.
Yeah, I was gonna say, share it with me, and we'll put it in the show notes. That'd be awesome.
Perfect.
So, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for the time. It was awesome to meet you, man.
Thank you.
Stay in touch, and thanks for sharing your story.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you again.